Try to do anything super out of the beaten path, right?
Well, his list, his dragon list is really interesting. It's got Dragon New Princess in it. Like that, it's been a long time since I've seen that card. For people who don't know what that actually is, as fanfare, do 3 damage to a follower if overflow is active for you. It's been a really long time. Exo, when's the last time you saw that card?
The last time I played it, because I like that card.
When was the last time you played it?
In fact, it's so scary, in fact, that it got banned out. But the last time I played it was in OTK Dragon, when I wanted just more small. This was before the expansion hit. When I wanted more small followers to just deal with the board, so that I could extend my game plan into the later turns to actually finish off with the OTK combo. So, but outside of that, it's a good answer now to new PDK because it only has 3 defense.
Yep. And then the sword list he's running just looks pretty. He's got Sage Commander and wow, okay, so he's running Otohime's and all that. Yep. So, yep. Otohime is back, baby. And then of course there's, the Shadow, which is just mid Shadow. Nothing really, it's par for the course.
That's kind of the talk day right now. That's why we're seeing Odiles come back. I believe maybe even Ancient Lion Spirit's going to make a comeback in some of the Haven decks because Shadow is just ever present again. People have decided that this is just the deck that they want to have in their lineup because it's solid across the board, and I can't really hate on them for that decision. It really is just that. It's a consistent deck that tends to do very well.
Okay, Red's happy about something. I don't know what, but he's giving thumbs up and okays. I don't know what's going on over there, man.
He's got Andriolphus into Bone Chimera into the Prince Catacomb, and then he's got Odile on the play to clear boards. So I think he really likes his initiative style of position this game.
Well, that Bone Chimera is gonna definitely get some value, especially if he doesn't kill it, which I can't imagine he wouldn't do. Eplicas, I mean. Can't imagine that he would just let that sit there. And although he is giving Prince Catacomb more targets, and that's something he has to consider. I don't know. Like, you're the mid shadow guy. You tell me.
This is clear Andriolphus. Just try to clear off what you can clear off. You never really want to clear into Bone Chimera unless you can clear off most of what happens after it.
That's fair.
It's a really tough card to play around, right? Because you have to consider Prince Catacomb. You have to consider these things. So. It's just hard. But again, I think Red's just going to press forward with his game plan, pop it, play the Prince Catacomb, get his advantage. And then this is just kind of the battle that Mid Shadow goes through, right? Bunch of skeletons versus bunch of skeletons. Who can last longer?
Right. Lyriel coming down, or is a draw. Now, do you think he plays Lyriel? Does he play Saris? Like Saris, the thing about Saris is that he won't actually be able to trade, or rather Red won't be able to trade into the Saris. So is that an option, or
it depends on what he wants to do with this Bone Chimera. So I really feel like trading is an option here, kind of risky because it just provides more shadows. Saris would have been a play if I went face with the Chimera because it would have forced my opponent to attack into it to generate the Forged Shadow to make a Soul Squasher good. But if he plans on trading, then Lyriel seems like the more optimal play. That way you can save Saris for a better board.
Okay. Well, we do see that his staircase is at 1 now, so next turn, more than likely, I don't think Red's going to leave up this board. Next turn, more than likely, that is going to pop. He's going to get to draw 3 cards. Staircase, obviously, being a fantastic card, and Eplicas also having an animated one.
Yes. Always good to point out the animations, because the animations in this game are great.
Yes.
But this is exactly what I'm talking about. This was, instead of soul conversion, he isn't down a follower in play. He's on the draw, so he actually has to maintain board control as well as he can. Staircase helps you do that so much more than soul conversion, because you don't have to sacrifice that board position. And now he's going to draw a lot more cards than soul conversion could have possibly drawn him. So I really feel like I like the direction, especially if you feel like you're going to be fighting a lot of long game type battles.
Oh, Eplicas is praying right now. Or was, and he's kind of got this little head bobblehead thing going. He was praying, now he's bobbling his head. Like, I don't know what he's doing.
what? He's gonna have he's probably just looking for something like a Blade Fiend. Ooh. Or just a bunch of turtles. Yeah.
Well,
he
he
already
does
has
have
the
the
Saber
altar.
Altar.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he has the
that's
Saber
right.
Altar. So he will be able to play that for sure. I can't imagine that he wouldn't play it, right?
Right. This sets up a perfect 1-2 turn. So this turn you play Saber Altar, clear off as much of the board as you can. Next turn you have the option to play Soul Squasher plus Ceres to clear off a ton of board while also healing. So I kind of like that 1-2 punch right there.
Now, let me ask you this. We see Eplicas' style of build. His build is more, I just want to jam things on the board. Don't really want to sacrifice board position. How do you think that fares? And this is a hypothetical. How do you think that particular style would fare against what Red's ban deck was, which we know is PDK?
I don't know if that plays too much into it, honestly speaking. I think PDK is usually just a ban because people don't want to play against it, and I think that's realistically just it. I don't think that there is a lot of thought around PDK, at least from what I can see from our players on both days, is just they don't want to play against it. The end.
So then the question then is, even with the changes, they still are like, nope.
Yeah.
I don't.
It's just
get it out of here.
It's too much advantage. It's too much advantage, man. PDK is still really good. I mean, yes, you can make it smaller. Yes, you can make it cost more, but it still has that sweet game-changing effect.
What? It's incredible that a lot of people, and I remember this specifically. A lot of people were like, "Man, this deck is dead," and we're still seeing it.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
So even
I'm never one to jump to that conclusion. I know if you guys have watched me in the past or anything like that, I am never the first one to say that a deck is dead. I don't think a deck is dead until it has been fully flushed out and you just can't play it anymore. Right. People said it with Aggro Shadow. People said it with Mid Shadow. Believe it or not, people did say it about Mid Shadow at one point. And
when
they
Ektar
said
got
it
hit?
about Ramp Dragon, PDK Dragon. All these decks are still super good. You just have to figure out a way to make them work, and that's all.
Yeah, you just can't play them the way you were playing them.
Exactly. It takes a mental shift in, okay, this is what the deck did do. This is the turn it did win by. These were my options. Now what can I do with it? And once you rebuild it, it's good. I mean, look at Odahime, a card not played ever, and now we see it running rampant again.
Yeah.
Much to my surprise. Anything can work in the right context.
Much to my surprise on the Otohime comment.
Right, same.
So it's like, wait, people are playing that again? You know,
if you plan to ban out Dragon every single match that you play, Odahime Sword seems just fine in this mid-range metagame that we're looking at. The reason I say that is because cards like Breath of the Salamander and Bahamut will still break through anything that you're possibly trying to do with these types of sword decks. But if you ban it out, you don't have to worry about it.
Right. Eplicas probably running down time on his turn because he was sitting there for quite a while trying to figure out what he was going to do. I mean, I guess it was a pretty difficult decision, though. Like, Red sitting with a full board.
Right.
He did just draw another Soul Squasher.
Oh, so nice. So nice. Red's talking to himself. He's like, oh, yeah, baby. Got that Soul Squasher. Feels good. He's like, how am I so lucky?
Red is sweet talking back.
That's exactly right. Oh, baby, you're so fine. Thank you.
Oh, Miss Shadow. You know how I like it. Give me that Soul Squasher.
Yeah, that's good. All right, so now we're just looking at what Mid Shadow does, right? It's board presence, try to clear board, try to keep your opponent off of Ektar turns, and vice versa for both of these players going on. Eplicas has a lot more tools, but he's a little bit behind. I mean, he's already behind in board. He doesn't have a card like Odile, like Red has, to actually clear this board very easily. So this might start turning into, can Red finish the game before his card quality doesn't matter anymore?
Well, let's see. I don't know. They're both out of Evos, which is unfortunate. So the question I have is, do you play, if you're Eplicas, do you play that Ektar? I don't think so. I mean,
I don't think Ektar is the play this turn. I think if you're going to play a board flood, I would go with
Blade Thane, right?
Death Breath.
Or really?
I would go with Blade Fiend this turn. I would go with Blade Fiend and possibly a Zombie Party to clear out more of the board. But I would not go Death Breath this turn. I don't think it's pressing that you play that. I don't want to use my shadows here because I might want to Ektar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's my only play.
And he plays the Death Breath.
Yeah, it's not a bad play, but this kind of plays into what Red can do, right? He's got a Bellinus in play already to eke a little bit extra advantage. And now,
I'm telling you, he's sweet talking his deck, man. I'm telling you,
every turn,
he's sweet talking. He's just drawing all the cards he needs. Like he's like, come on, baby, you know I need a Nectar. You know? And this is actually a lot safer for Red because I don't believe Eplicas is running Odiles in his list. So this is actually a lot safer for him. But that Eplicas, second Death Breath draw was pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good. And if he chose to play Death Breath last turn, I can't imagine that play will change this turn. I think he'll follow suit with that, and I think he will use the Zombie Party this turn. He's got enough cards in hand to where it won't matter. Okay, decides to save it.
Or not.
I'm just getting scared for Eplicas, right? Like, every time you leave extra followers in play, that's an extra turn where a Prince Catacomb can come down to do a lot of work. An Ektar can come down to do a lot of work.
You know, Prince Catacomb would feel miserable right now. I mean, obviously, we know Red doesn't have that, but it would feel absolutely miserable if he had that at that point. But he had another Death Breath, so now we're sitting with 5 wards on board, and we see Eplicas with this Ektar, but no shadows, really?
No shadows anymore. That's right. That's what would have made me afraid to be playing all these Death's Breath, is that there might come a time where you just need the Ektar shadows. And I feel like the Saber Altar on the previous turn when we were talking about it would have lined up so well because Red would have had to give up so much advantage for that then you could start eking out your Death's Breaths and then prolong it. I think he would have had an extra turn because now the Saber Altar doesn't do as much, right?
Right. Actually, this kind of goes back to something. The way that Eplicas built his list. So the way that he built his list is so that he didn't have to use cards for sacrificing, and he didn't have to get rid of his board advantage. The problem is that he's not generating a lot of shadows either. Right. So he doesn't have like a bunch of
that sweet Immortal Thane play that you see our other shadow players making in the Soul conversion.
Right. So now Immortal Thane, and as you just said, like, to me it feels just a little weaker because of the lack of that board manipulation that you can do as Shadow.
What's our favorite 7-drop Shadowcraft follower that we could play in this deck, given the way and the style that Eplicas is playing? That card that we don't see anymore. It's a nice little 7-drop that gives you more followers.
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about?
Lord of Flies, man.
Lord of Flies, baby. Lord of Flies, I think, would be so sweet in Eplicas style of deck instead of Immortal Thane.
Agreed. Like, Lord of Flies, man. Like, I love me some Lord of the Flies. It's just...
Yeah, me too.
Hey, man, someone bring Lord of the Flies to NGE, please.
That's right. Play a deck like Eplicas, but instead of using cards that might not necessarily work with the deck, use cards that just extend your game plan. I'm not saying it's the right choice. I'm just saying Lord of Flies is pretty sweet right now.
Yeah, I would like to see some Lord of the Flies, man. All right, so this kind of goes back to exactly what we were talking about the shadow count. This White King is just going to be chilling in his hand for a little bit. But we do see Red is really out of cut.
That's what I was talking about and what I thought the game was going to come down to. Can Red finish the game? Because Eplicas has card advantage, and that's it. And now we see that Red has to be in top deck mode every single turn for the rest of this game because he couldn't close the game out fast enough, and Eplicas still has all this stuff in his hand.
Yeah, I don't think he sweet talked his deck enough.
No, not enough.
Not enough.
He drew all of his Death's Breaths, though. You know what I mean? He drew Soul Squashers on the appropriate turns. Your deck can't do more than that for you, I think.
Yeah, well, it could have. It just didn't. And what we see now is we see Eplicas just kind of slowly taking the game.
Now,
And
there is a case to be made for Odile. However, the Odette that it puts into play for Eplicas isn't going to be easily dealt with, and neither is, you know, a lot of the rest of the cards on this board as well. This is a rough one.
okay. This game's over, man. Like, I don't think he can do anything. Like, he can't kill that. He cannot kill the Odette that he just gave him. And then of course Ektar.
And another
Ektar doesn't
staircase run.
Yeah. I mean, well, let's see. I mean, you could just play Ektar here and just go. Well, I guess you would have to kill the Odile, right? Like, do you have to kill the Odile?
I like this.
Yeah,
I think you just regularly board clear here. You draw your cards, and then you have 2 Ektars to finish the game with. I think you're perfectly happy with this play.
Yeah, well, he's certainly happy. He did a little head rock, you know. Well, that's not what you want to see. That's not what you want to see. Yo,
gotta up
Red,
that sweet talk game, Red. Come on, man.
Yeah. I mean, was he cheating on his deck, man? It gave him a bone chimera. Hey, man.
Right. That's right. And now Sarah's drawn. This is a very formidable board.
Yeah, this is unfortunate.
Yeah. I think now, like you said, this is lights out time. I don't know if there's a single card that you can draw if you're Red to come back in this game.
Apparently, we're getting a nice view of the top of Red's head.
That's
right. Nice Sarah's draws, but
not gonna be enough.
No, because Ektar comes down and thanks for playing. He can play both Sarahs.
Anything off the board.
Yeah. It just doesn't matter.
He's gonna have to go for more draw with Demon Eater and just hope to draw into something. But again, I just don't know what that can be.
Eplicas got this big smile on his face. He's taking a little swig or something. Like, yeah.
He's like, staircase, bro. Staircase, yeah.
So what turned out to be a little bit of a weakness ended up being, you know, a strength in this matchup. Yep. How about that?
Well, I mean, it's very clear to understand why. Red had the advantage going into the late game, but Staircase to Paradise is going to give you the edge once you reach it. So because Red couldn't close the game out, now Eplicas has all the card quality in the world to work with. It's hard. It's hard.
Yeah. Red's like, okay, I know. I like that, Red. But I think he knows he's dead. But he did the little Ektar motion. This head can't be taken, and he just
can't be taken. I mean, you haven't seen a Nektar yet. He's been holding cards in his hand the entire game. You have to know it's coming.
Yeah, for sure.
And now I think Red is in a horrible spot. So Eplicas got a win with his mid-shadow deck and only needs to find 1 win against 2 mid-range decks with his D-Shift deck.
Yeah, this is miserable, man. Like,
it's one of those things, man. I'm telling you, like, I know you don't want to play against PDK, but I think you have a better shot with wards and life gain that, you know, mid-shadow has and sword has against PDK than you do against D-Shift, because you can't really fight against D-Shift. You just have to aggress them, and you have to get good draws to do that.
Well, now, this used to be a little different before. Like, D-Shift didn't used to consistently go off on turn 7, right? Or turn 7, you know, etc.
Turn 8.
So it's kind of changed. Because mid decks used to actually be able to, you know, if they got a good enough curve, they could fight against D-Shift.
Right.
Now it's very different because Magic Owl basically turned everything upside down and just said, you know what, I'm amazing. Use me. People,
That's right.
People are using it, and it's amazing. Like Magic Owl, man.
So here's something to talk about with Eplicas Mulligan as well. So you saw him keep the Insight and the Conjure Golem, and you're asking yourself, you know, why didn't he hard mulligan for something like a D-Shift or something else that he could finally get to in the end game? It's because when you're playing against a mid-range style deck or even an aggro deck, a lot of times you need that 2-drop just to solidify early board position if you don't already have something like a Wind Blast or a Kaleidoscopic Glow. You need something to do. If you're just playing spells that draw cards, not always going to work for you.
What does that say?
What does that say? Insight?
I can't. Oh, is he reading is he telling what his hand is?
Yeah, maybe. Writing down Eplicas' hand, he's like, this is what he's gonna be doing. Alright.
I like it.
You know what, Red, fix your handwriting, bro. Okay? Can't read it.
Well, actually, this kind of goes into something a little bit. We could talk about it here since these are a little bit slower turns going on. But when you're playing in like competitive events, one of the most important things, and you can certainly back this up, is taking notes. You know, keeping track of what your opponent has played, and et cetera, et cetera. Like in other games, in this game, there's no card interactivity, but in other games, or rather looking at the opponent's hand, stuff like that, there's no way to do that. But in other games, when you play cards, you look at your opponent's hand, you write down their cards, you remember exactly what they had, so you know what you can play around and what they have answered for you and stuff like that. I find that to be, interesting that I like that Red is actually doing that. Well, he can't obviously see his opponent's hand, but he is notes, and I like to see that.
He writes it down. Notes are great, especially against D-Shift. So a little secret that I'll share with you guys now. Against D-Shift, if you guys count every single spell that they've cast, and you write down every single card that they've cast, you can know just about what they're up to every single turn. And this takes a lot of effort. I'm not going to lie. It takes a lot of mental, fortitude to enable to play your game plan while also understanding what D-Shift can do on any given turn. But if you write down everything, you can know exactly what cost that D-Shift is, or possibly like what the highest maximum it could be. You can write down all of these things and what options they have left to do on their turns so that you can execute your game plan very well against them. I don't think most players, if any players, do this, and I think D-Shift is one of those decks you can do it against.
Right. Like, one thing I like to do when I'm playing against D-Shift is, like, when I'm playing on ladder, I can't really sit there and take all the time in the world to figure out exactly what they've done.
Of course.
But
I'm not saying for the ladder by any means, please.
Right. But I'm just saying general, because I just play ladder. I don't play in tournament, and sometimes a scrimmage, but otherwise, anyway. Something I like to do is, and it's just something that kind of happens when you play against the deck a lot, is when you are paying very close attention to what cards they played in the early game, it definitely informs. And this kind of goes along with what you were just saying, but it definitely informs as to what they will play on like certain turns. So like, if it just and actually we were talking about this for the cast. If I'm playing Vengeance Blood and I'm playing Disagreeable Demon, and they didn't play like an Insight or a Angelic Snipe on their first turn, I know they can't Wind Blast it on 3. It's stuff like that. I know that because Wind Blast, it needs to be at 3, and if he plays something on 2, the most it's going to be is at 2, right? So I know that he can't do that. So it helps inform my decisions a bit. They're just things that I kind of pick up on as I play against.
In other words, use their spell boost against them. Understand what they can do, and then use it against them.
Yep.
And I really like the play Eplicas made here. He didn't go for the Merlin play on top of the Insight in favor of clearing board because he knows he needs to extend the game a little bit, because Red is doing what you need to be doing against D-Shift and just evoing face, flooding the board nonstop.
Well, I think Red up to this point has been playing the game as well as he could, rather as he can. Eplicas is kind of a little bit of a tight spot because, well, he doesn't have a D-Shift. Like, he hasn't had D-Shift for a very long time. He has it now, which is great. But Eplicas can clear a fair amount of this board with the Kaleidoscopic Glow. He can also play the Chimera. He has a Fiery Embrace that he can use, and he can attack with the Merlin. He can do quite a bit.
Yeah, this is a great turn.
Yeah, it is excellent. The thing is that once these are dealt with, it's going to be a while before Eplicas can, go off with a D-Shift.
Right, absolutely. So yes, he looks in a really good spot here, but like you said, it's going to take him a little while to actually finish the game off. I feel like the card that you're looking for now is Golem Assault. It's the card that you just want to draw so that you can actually put together a board presence. That's really it. Other than that, you just have to try to outlast.
Now, let's talk about the mid-range versus combo matchup. Like, how do you feel the matchup should play out in general? Like, we know it's not according to draws. We already know that, it generally comes down to that. But how do you feel the matchup should play out in general? Just
what you see Red doing. I mean, be as aggro as you possibly can. Never stop. The second you stop to breathe is when D-Shift can make turns like Sorcery Cache into more card draw spells and whatever else and execute their game plan. If you constantly provide threats, especially against like a deck like D-Shift, then they have to spend their turns casting spells they might not want to cast. They might have to Wind Blast this and Wind Blast that and Kaleidoscopic Load that, all the while missing out on, a Magic Owl or whatever else it might be, depending on how big your followers are. It's kind of like you're playing against Seraph, right? You never want to let them play Seraph. It's the same type of thing, you just do it every turn against D-Shift. You don't want to let them play their Sort Caches. You don't want to let them play their cards that extend their game plan.
That's fair. What we can see now is Eplicas' hand is not terrible.
Not bad.
It's not terrible. He can do quite a bit of spell boosting on this D-Shift. But the thing is, he doesn't have anything to close the game out.
Yep, still can't win the game yet.
Yeah, definitely cannot win the game.
But I mean, he's still this is the last turn I really feel like that he has to kind of clear the board unless he draws into more stuff. Which is it's got to be beaten on Eplicas. It's like, I have the answer for this board, but realistically, if something like a Death's Breath comes down or something else, I don't really have a way to push through that. I don't have a way to deal with it. So I'm scared if I'm Eplicas right now, actually.
Well, unfortunately, another D-Shift, but no way to win. So I'm gonna take a quick look at his list. I don't remember exactly what he's running as his win condition. So let's take a quick look. And Eplicas is running as his win con a Flame Destroyer and a Giant Chimera, which he has seen neither.
Yes. And because he had to use all of his Chimeras in the early game, he doesn't have that option to finish with.
Right. So he has all the D-Shifts in the world, but no way to finish this game.
He's drawing a ton of filter, though, and there hasn't been a big board swing again on red side of the table to do something that Eplicas can't handle. So I'm still scared if I'm Eplicas, but I'm getting a little less scared now that I didn't see a Death's Breath specifically, and I haven't seen a Nectar yet to fill up board.
Mm-hmm. Man, Eplicas got that really worried face. It's just, man, I need to draw something.
I think it's just serious. I think he's just like in the zone right now. That's the face I'm going with Eplicas. I think he's in the zone. I think he's just like, I'm in it.
I think he's worried. Like, it's okay to be worried, man. You're in a tight spot, bro. Yeah, there you go. He's shaking his head. No, he's worried, man. Look, that's a worried man. Okay.
And I think the double Ceres play is great from red. This will heal him back up, make it even harder for Eplicas to finish the game out, and presents a lot of defense to deal with.
Yeah. Well, good luck. He still doesn't. Oh my goodness. There it is.
I think he might just have to go for it. You know what I mean? There isn't more time. You have a Fiery Embrace that you can kill the 2/2 with, and then you technically only taking 3, but Ektar is obviously a looming threat. I think you just have to swing for it this turn and just see what happens.
Well, unfortunately, he doesn't really have a world. Yeah, you're right. He doesn't have a world of time. He can do the Fire Embrace D-Shift with the Merlin in play, and then next turn, well, he can't play Merlin. And oh yeah, I guess he can't really do that, can he? Let's see.
It's just the thing is, like, this is where you have to be. If you're the D-Shift player, you have to think in your head, okay, I'm not going to win this game with my standard combo. How else can I win this game? I think the only way you can do that is by trying to tempo play your opponent. And that is consistent with playing D-Shifts, playing a bunch of followers, trying to clear up as much board as you can, getting extra card draw to see if you can draw more removal. And that's exactly what Eplicas is doing. Just so that he can maintain board control, not just immediately lose, and then maybe he can use this second D-Shift to win after he's dealt with this board.
You know, D-Shift makes my head hurt, man.
It is one of those styles of decks, absolutely.
This is why I don't play combo decks, man. I'm like, oh my goodness. Can I get some Tylenol?
And now I think he's played it. I think he's played it as well as he possibly can. You know, he's dealt with more of the board than you think he would have been able to if you're red, and he's starting to present a force that looks kind of scary.
Well, this is certainly turning out to be a very interesting set of events.
Yeah, this might just be it. With having 2 active Merlins to attack with, this giant Chimera is not growing at a slow pace.
No. Well, there's a Flame Destroyer.
Is this enough? Is this giant Chimera enough already?
I don't think it's enough. It shouldn't be. Nah, it shouldn't be enough. It's not 10 damage.
Okay. All right.
I was like, there's no way. There's no way that's 10.
But see,
But
this is exactly
good too.
it right here. You can't win with D-Shift, right? Outright. So now let's play a tempo game. I'm going to take an extra turn, maybe even 2 extra turns against you to solidify my board position so I don't lose. And now I just have a bigger board than you and you can't deal with it.
Yeah, and red just... What does that say? I can't read that, red!
You got to use marker,
can't
red.
read it.
We got to make that. You got to make it bold.
Did he... I still
He said
can't read
GG.
that.
I'll take the GG from it. He said
Okay.
GG. That was a GG. Eplicas played that game amazingly well from the position that he was in.
Yeah.
Wow. What a game.
Yes.
What a game.
Eplicas is ecstatic. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
he's exhausted is what he is.
I feel like
Yeah.
the 2 of them came together and they built a home.
Hmm.
They got brick and mortar. They poured the cement on, and together with their collective bad drawing, they built a fine house. That